Welcome to the I Fired My Boss franchise podcast. My name's Dan Claps, founder and CEO of Franchise Playbook, a franchisor platform where we create, own, and operate dynamic franchise brands in the mobile services space. And my life's goal is to help people just like you fire their boss and become a business owner.
We're at the International Franchise Association show in Las Vegas. I have Dan Claps, a good friend of mine. He's the CEO of Voda Cleaning and Restoration. Dan the man, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It is exciting to have you. It's been a while since you've been on. So I want to get to the dirt of how you got started. You have all this time served, so to speak, building Voda, and it was not easy. So let's put it this way. What decision that you made looked maybe like a failure at first, but it ended up shaping the company's culture for the better?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say starting this company.
Which was how long ago now?
3 years ago. The company originally started in 2009. The founder, his name is Dragon. He's a partner of mine.
He's the Voda Yoda, by the way.
He's the Voda Yoda. He moved here from Serbia in 2004. Didn't speak any English. And I'm sure when he started the business, he had the same thought of like, what the heck did I get myself into? We met 15 years later, had built a great company, and started the franchise together. And I was extremely optimistic about how successful we would ultimately be. And when we first launched, I couldn't have been more wrong. And so for me, we struggled quite a lot. Almost went out of business in the beginning. And I remember thinking I should not have done this. Really, like that was actually how I felt. And so ultimately, it's led to where we're at today, which we'll talk about. But at a point, I was extremely nervous that we were going to fail. And if your listeners are a franchise owner, potentially a franchise owner, a business owner, what I would say is that more people than you think, no matter how successful they may seem, are probably in the same boat that you were in.
Yeah, and you weren't struggling because there wasn't a great model. You were struggling for other reasons. You were funding this with all of your capital and payroll every 2 weeks.
Right.
And selling franchises and developing the right way, right? I mean, because there's ways to develop franchise systems the wrong way.
Yeah, except we weren't selling any.
Exactly.
So we were trying to, and no one was buying.
Absolutely. So what changed? At what point did you wake up when you thought the possibility could be that we're going bankrupt and things turned?
Well, there's two answers. The first answer is July 6th, we awarded our first franchise, 2023. And July 4th, I met my fiance. So her answer is that her. Met her, we succeeded.
You're a good luck charm.
My answer is a little bit of that, but also one thing changed. We started to listen to people that were not buying, and we would ask, why? Lance, I know you said that you're not going to buy our franchise. No pressure. I'm not trying to persuade you. Please tell me why so I can improve. And we would just sit there and listen.
I love that.
And then we'd take that and build it. And I believe that to this day, we continue to do that. Understanding this idea that feedback is a gift, not an insult.
What was the one piece of feedback that you got that was the most common in those days as to why they weren't buying?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question.
It's just too early in general?
That's the smokescreen answer.
The assumption that most people would say.
To me, the smokescreen, meaning the fake answer, would be it's just too early. But as we dug deeper into the root of their objection, it was never that. It was actually basically 5 things. I don't know how you're going to get me customers or help me get customers. How am I going to hire employees? And I'm not sure on how you'll help me. 3, there's already restoration in my market. So how do you stand out to the customer? 4, the numbers, we weren't clarifying the earning potential properly. And then 5, like, what's the day in the life of an owner? And does that match what I like to do, what I'm good at? And so what we really did was we started to understand that we need to present Voda and hit on these 5 things before they ever ultimately say, I'm out. You got to cover it before they say it.
Right. So fast forward to today, how many franchisees do you have?
As of today, 110 franchise owners. We're about 300 locations.
So the average franchisee has 3 or so
Yeah.
territories.
Yeah.
And what I love, I get emails almost every week, it seems, from Voda that says expansion, which in our business means that an existing franchisee of Voda came back and bought more territory. And I know you love seeing that. So maybe they bought 2 territories to start with,
Right.
went through training and said, I have to get another territory before somebody buys this.
Right.
Boy, is that confirmation at that point, huh?
Absolutely. 25% of our franchise owners buy more territory after they train.
I knew you would know that statistic off the top of your head.
That specific one, yes.
So why restoration? You know, the listeners are potential first-time owners, a lot of franchisees as well. Why restoration? Is it because it's that much of a needed business?
As a franchise business,
Yes.
someone who's thinking about a business in general, why restoration?
Yes.
To me, it really comes down to only a few items. Remember, I'm not a restoration guy that did restoration and then started to franchise. I'm a franchise guy that got into restoration. And for me, it sounds a little bit mechanical, but I wanted a business. Well, I don't even want to say I first wanted to start another business, and then I formed a team of people that the only reason Voda is successful is this team. We wrote down on a piece of paper one day what we called our playbook, which was amongst the 4 leadership team members in my company. All of us have had businesses, and we wrote down like a pros and cons list of what we did not want from a business and what we did want. And ultimately it came down to a need, not a want. We want a business that's a need, not a want. We want a business that is a growing industry. And we want a business that the labor pool is non-skilled, meaning I can hire the bartender downstairs tonight if he's got a great attitude and they're great with their hands. I can hire them to do this work. We could train on that. It's not a skilled labor.
So how do you stand out from the competition? So when a prospective franchisee is looking at a multitude of restoration franchises, I know personally how you stand out because I really think you guys are up late at night trying to continue to build and evolve the mousetrap, so to speak, to make things better for your franchisees, which is what franchisees want. They don't want somebody just collecting royalties and then it's all about what have you done for me lately. I really know that you guys have your heart in the right place. So how do you prove that to people through the process? Is it the fact that you have great validation with existing franchisees?
I think that there's 2 answers to your question. What do we do, and then how do we prove it? So what we do really hits on those things I mentioned. We're focused on lead gen. We're focused on unit economics. I think that at the core, we are focused on how do we make as many people as we can wealthy. No, I can't make an earnings claim. So if you're listening, I'm not saying you'll become wealthy, but if you look at the unit economics of our business, those numbers you can't really dispute. And then the second answer to your question is then we really work hard to communicate that to prospective franchise owners. Recently, someone asked me, how do you plan to be bigger than ServPro? And my answer was, one, it doesn't really matter if we do. Would I like to be? Yes. And do I think we will be? Yes. In a long time horizon, 10, 20 years from now. That question doesn't really relate to like the core of what you're asking, which is, am I going to succeed or fail as a franchise owner? And to me, I would rather be a third of the size of ServPro, but have franchisees. I'm using them as an example, but have franchisees where their unit economics are better. Why does it matter if I'm the biggest company in America and you know it, if the franchise owners who are my customers are making more money here? And so for us, it's been a maniacal focus on unit economics.
Quick editing point. I just noticed on your lip. Let me see. Yeah, there you go. Something like little spit or something. I just want to make sure the camera. No, it just
is it red?
It just happened. No, it's good. It's good. I just want to make sure it didn't stay. You're good. I want to while we are in an editing queue, one of the questions I'm going to hit you with, because there's and again we're pretending we're not recording. There's so much noise on the internet about entrepreneurship through acquisition, and especially for independent businesses.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you. I want to let you answer that, because I always make fun of it, because I always say it's like marriage through supermodel. Like, good luck with that. Like we're going to wait around 10 years and you're never going to find anything.
Yeah.
And of course, acquisitions. With,
I like that.
Yeah, and acquisitions with franchises.
Yeah.
The top franchise businesses, you're never going to get an acquisition. It goes to the franchisees typically in the best businesses. But I'll ask it simply, and acquisition versus franchise. What say you? But let's talk about. I'm going to ask you a franchise playbook question that Ruben gave me, which I like. Is Franchise Playbook, by the way, your parent company?
Yeah.
Chase, you'll notice we're not really recording now, right? Yeah. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. All right, here we go. Dan, Franchise Playbook is like your parent company. That's how you started. Where do you expect Franchise Playbook to be in 10 years?
Yeah. So the original plan for Franchise Playbook, and still the plan, is I had a previous business prior to Franchise Playbook that myself and my previous business partner had built for about 7 years. The better part of my 20s were spent building that business. And we got acquired in the spring of 2022. When I tell people it's one of the happiest days of my life was the Friday that I cut the wire, honestly. One of the worst days of my life was that next day. That Saturday morning when I realized that I literally had friends from college working at that company. Like, all these people that I truly enjoyed working with, I could no longer work with. And the money didn't matter as much as that. So when I started Franchise Playbook, the goal was, can we build a company that can be around for 20, 30 years that could pass on to my future, family, while still also having a great economic, engine for funding, monetary goals. So the goal for Franchise Playbook is just to still be around in 10 years. But what we intend to do is be a platform of brands. And so right now we're growing in the restoration space, but the goal is to be in other home service verticals.
You heard it here. Voda is the opening act. More to come from this guy.
Opening act, yes.
More brands to be announced soon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We don't know what soon is, but I know nothing about this yet. You'll have to kill me if you want to get this out of me. Truth is, I don't know. What's one uncomfortable truth about franchising that you rarely admit publicly?
For a franchise owner or as a franchisor?
Both.
That's a good question. The relationship between a franchise owner and the franchisor simulates in more ways than you can humanly imagine what I believe any human relationship has. And I think that franchise owners and mostly franchisors forget this. At the end of the day, you've signed a 10-year agreement with a human being. Another human being who has the same challenges, insecurities, needs deep down that we all have. At the end of the day, no matter how big your franchise is, you, whoever leads that company, and that franchise owner got married. And so what are you going to do when you have conflict? Are you going to throw in their face the leverage you have? Would you do that with your wife?
No way.
Yeah.
Got to talk about it.
Right.
Got to play nice. Compromise.
100%. And so, not that we can just go and compromise our agreement all over the place. More times than not, I'm always trying to persuade people to realize that at the end of the day, that owner in Las Vegas who, is doing XYZ that is outside of the contract they agreed on, more likely than not, he's not doing it because they're saying, I hate that franchise.
Yeah.
There's a reason. Let's get to the root of it. Let's try to work through it. And I wish that more franchisors understood that.
So is the value proposition with franchising, it does feel like a lot of franchisees are thinking, what have they done for me lately? And so as a franchisor, are you constantly thinking how to add value? Because I know there's people listening, and we'll talk about acquisitions in a moment because it's all over the internet. How do people get started in their first business? Apparently, everybody thinks it's so easy. You just go to BizBuySell or whatever site and you find an acquisition. So how do franchisors make it obviously more attractive to get into a franchise? Because you're paying fees, but there's a reason you're paying fees. You're paying fees for accelerated growth and a little bit more of a guarantee of success. You know what I tell people, Dan? I tell people all the time that in the top brands I represent, Voda included, it's pretty much a 90% success rate. Now, I can say that because it's what I see.
I think I completely agree with you. I think that as a franchise owner, there's two things you should think about. Number one, you are partnering with a brand. You're not partnering with me. You're partnering with the platform. If I were to go back in business in time, my last business, I had a partner. They had three things: more experience, more capital, most importantly, an audience of people that could buy our product. If I were to partner with anyone in business, if I wanted to open up the next, Wynn Hotel in Vegas here, I would find the number two person at the number one company and I'd bring them over to be my business partner. Whether it's a franchise, an employee, whatever, a franchise is a partner that has an audience, a brand, systems, all these things. If you think about how much you're paying in royalties, 7% on average, would you say?
Yeah, 6 to 8%, depending on the industry.
What would you say the average net profit margin people make is? 20%?
Well, I have quite a few franchisees that I know now that got started with me a few years ago doing anywhere from 2 million to 4 million these days. And most of them can net, depending on the brand, most of them can net close to 20%, depending on how they run it.
So think of it from the perspective. Totally. That's awesome. Let's call it X revenue, average 20% net.
Let's say 2 million, they net 20%, that's 400,000.
Sounds good to me. It's so funny because years ago, the goal would be $1 million with 20%, but everything's so expensive, so now we need to do two.
Absolutely.
7% off the top is 30% of the 20%. So if you and I were to partner, and I was a 30% partner in your business net, but I did this, and this, no matter how long you and I talk, how much you and I, are, what have I done for you lately? Mm-hmm. Am I adding enough value to our relationship that you feel that 30% is fair?
It could be. But yeah. I'd rather do a franchise and pay a little piece to somebody doing all kinds of things for me.
What I'm saying, and people don't think of it this way, and maybe
Right.
It's a negative, but that 7% is basically 30% of the net.
Yeah.
If you do the math on it, is that 30% worth paying?
Yeah.
For me, if I was a franchisee, absolutely. If people want to do it on their own, the last thing I'll say on it is you can do it on your own. I'm sure you'll succeed if you're a driven person. It'll take you 3 times as long.
Yeah.
And it'll be 3 times as hard, and your life will be 3 times as hard. If that's important to you to do it on your own and not pay a royalty, fine. But if you want to make it easier, this is why you do a franchise.
Yeah, I definitely tell people that, and my favorite example is an HVAC owner, an independent guy. He wanted to do his own HVAC thing, and 8 years later, he's doing $800,000. He's very proud of himself. He's not paying royalties. He never paid a franchise fee.
How much?
$800,000, 8 years later, and he's doing it all on his own, and he's proud of himself. And I said to him, he said, "Why would I have joined a franchise? I didn't want to pay a franchise fee or royalties." I said, "Because in my favorite HVAC franchise, you would have been doing $1 million in year 1. I had a friend that got into an HVAC franchise that did over $2 million in year 1. So I explain to people, you pay for the fast track to growth. If you're going to do restoration by yourself, you're lucky to get to $300,000 in year 1. That's the big difference."
I agree. I mean, when you go to college, could you learn the things they teach in college on your own? Probably.
Probably, but it's gonna be tough to crack a textbook on your own and assess yourself.
To me, the royalties you pay a franchise when you first start are tuition. Years later, they're membership dues, and you're glad to pay them. I was just recently with, you'll know them. I guess not recently. It was 6 months ago, but some of the earliest franchisees at Citywide, Steve and John Duffy. They live in Florida. They're doing about 50 million. Wait, edit.
That's all right. Edit.
Let's take that part out.
Yeah.
They're doing incredible revenue. Massive company. Their company is bigger than some franchisors. We were out to dinner actually here a year ago, and I asked them, would you do a franchise again at this level? Yes. The answer was yes, absolutely. And I think it's just interesting seeing people go from, I'm excited about the franchise, to like, I don't want to pay royalties. And then most franchise owners, as they mature, they start to realize it's worth the royalty.
Yeah, and it is the classic, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And I tell people all the time, why is it that people pay Tony Robbins $30,000, $50,000 to join a mastermind? They're looking to get on the next rung higher, so to speak, on the ladder. Take themselves up to the next level. Find more ways to make money. And that's what franchising is as well. Now let's address acquisitions versus a franchise. I see it all over the internet. Entrepreneurship through acquisition, which I fondly call like marriage through supermodel. How long are you waiting for that supermodel? Because that's what it's like looking for an acquisition. Everybody's looking for the same independent acquisition, because in franchise acquisitions, good luck, because for the most part, the best franchise acquisitions go to franchisees. That's the way franchisees expand. So what is Dan Clapps's opinion on people that are ferociously waiting and pursuing for years the right acquisition, when you have all these franchises you can jump into, especially Voda?
Yeah. I mean, whatever the franchise is, I think that your analogy is spot on. I know that the majority of things, if you start the right thing sooner, usually that's worth doing versus trying to find the perfect thing. You know, what is the saying? Perfection is the enemy of perfection is the enemy of something.
What is that saying?
It's like good is the enemy of great.
I also like done beats perfect.
Done beats perfect. I think these people, I'm going to speak to these people actually that are on Twitter.
Please do.
The TEA, or whatever it's called, entrepreneurship through acquisition.
Yes.
I think that you're spending more time researching and questioning
And how many LOIs?
how many LOIs later, and there's a guy or gal way less intelligent than you would run circles around, but they are beating you because they just started. And I believe that obviously do your research, find the right franchise, but if you spend more than 6 months looking at businesses, you're already in the wrong. Something is wrong in your process. It should not take anyone. Think about this. One of your clients is an entrepreneur acquisition candidate. If you said, where are you working? And they said, I got laid off. What is a odd answer to hear they weren't working for? In other words, I just got laid off. I haven't worked for X months is normal. What is an odd answer?
They haven't been working for years?
Yeah. 2 years?
Yeah. 2 years would be, I was like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Get on it, buddy.
So if you're looking at businesses, you say, I've had a job for 5 years and I've looked at opportunities for the past 2.
Absolutely.
Something's wrong.
You're not serious. You need to jump in. You're not, it is amazing how they continue to wait like something's going to jump out at them. And the worst part is some people get into an acquisition, they get the deal done, and the reality is that they get outbid. Somebody overpaid because they wanted a business so badly that you could have gotten, but you didn't.
Yeah. I think that these things that, people that are looking at acquisitions learn from, being part of larger companies or private equity is, looking at the industry, the growth rate, tailwinds that are going to happen. And all of these things to me are irrelevant because at the end of the day, don't get me wrong, you want to be in an industry that's growing, not shrinking. But when you're a small independent business, these things are such a micro element to your business. If I own the largest, airline in the world, and one small change happens at that scale, this is going to dramatically affect me. If I own a local business, macro changes in the economy are not going to affect me. I have an SBA loan that I originally took when we started Voda. The rate is a variable rate. It's prime plus 2.75. That rate today versus when I got it is quite different. The dollar amount is not millions of dollars. It's hundreds of dollars. When you're a big PE firm buying a company, the debt service that changes based on interest is a big deal. When you're buying a business on your own for a local business, these things most people are thinking about are just irrelevant. And so to me, if you spend 2 years looking, how many dollars of revenue did you miss? Yeah. And are you actually going to quadruple your time because you waited 2 years? So to me, it's just starting.
Classic opportunity cost. You're losing that opportunity. A lot of what we're talking about, in my opinion, is dedicated to first-time business owners. I had a gentleman that got a franchise not that long ago, and I told him he was very much looking at acquisitions. And I said, trust me on this. I've done this many, many times. When you become a business owner, your eyes are open to different things. People's eyes are open looking at you in a different way because now you're a business owner. Yeah. And he called me recently, a year into it. He goes, I'm super successful. Thank you. And guess what? I get opportunities that drop in my lap for acquisitions now. I said, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with acquisitions, but don't waste your time. So final thoughts, give advice to those first-time business owners and talk to them about, either the final pitch on franchising in general, Voda. What are the Dan Clapp's tips if you were going to do this all over again? And you were looking at that first business. What's your advice for these folks? How do you know? We know you like businesses that are needs versus wants.
How do you know if it's the right business for you?
How do you know if it's the right business? And what are the big pieces you're looking for? Is validation your biggest focus? Talking to existing franchisees?
I think that the right business you will know. You'll feel in your gut. As far as identifying that, 100% it's validation. It's funny, Lance, I was, one of the reasons I was out last night, for a little bit longer than maybe I wanted to be.
This isn't going to be a confession, by the way. We did run into each other at an event, a private event. This is IFA week, and what happens in Vegas does stay in Vegas, you know.
Nothing that couldn't leave Vegas, but I ended
good.
up talking to a mom and her daughter, and they coincidentally, they weren't here for IFA. They were looking at franchises, and I hope to hear this. I was like, look, I'm not trying to persuade you on Voda. We're sold out in the market that you're in anyway. Here's my advice to you.
Call Lance.
Call Lance.
Yes.
I did say that. And the advice I gave them was I would talk to all of the franchise owners that the system puts you in touch with. And the one woman said, well, they're probably giving the people they want you to hear from. My answer was yes. That may be true. Talk to them. You want to hear the people that are happy. Do you only want to hear from the people that aren't happy? Then fine. Why you're basically looking for why not to do it. And I'd rather see you look for why to do it. Now, a lot of people aren't going to agree with this. After that, go in the FTD, call everybody. But first get the positive. If you told me some of the things that I'm dealing with as a franchisor at this size, when I was thinking about writing the check to buy the company, I'd be working for someone right now. There's no way I would do what I'm doing today. I've fallen in love with the company, and I'm prepared for the challenges that I have now, today. And so my advice, if I sum it up, is you start, you'll deal with problems. The problems are going to get harder, not easier, but you'll get stronger. It's like that picture, like the wolf with like the arrows.
Yes.
Start. Don't worry that you don't know all the information you're trying to gather. Find a franchise. Talk to the franchise development person. Talk to as many franchise owners as you can. You could do that in 2 weeks. It doesn't need to be 6 months. When I met Antonia, I didn't need more than a few dates to know that she was the woman I wanted to marry.
Yeah.
I didn't say, well, I haven't looked at enough opportunities yet.
But she had to do a lot of validation to confirm that you were the right one for her.
Just for clarity, for her, yes.
Yes.
Yes, because what did you say, overmarried?
Yes.
She needed to do the validation. But my point is, she's like, don't overthink it. Find something. You'll know in your gut if it's right. Call Lance. And that's my advice.
You're awesome, Dan. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.
You're fired. If you want to say those words to your boss, make sure you head on over to ifiredmybosspodcast.com and fill out the form to schedule a no-cost consultation. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might also want to fire their boss.